Welcome back, guys. Joining me for the 7.8 patch note rundown. I've heard this one's relatively short, but I glanced over it a little bit and saw that it was longer than expected. So maybe this will be about 20 minutes, give or take. I usually I estimate it beforehand, and usually I'm like way off my estimation by like quite a big factor, but we'll see. So patch 7.8 notes. I just want to see what they want to accomplish with these notes. This is the pre-preseason notes, or pre-midseason notes. So midseason is coming soon, bound to be a bit wobbly for a patch, so consider this patch more of a setup. That being said, we're focusing on changes that either need to happen or have evergreen results moving forward. First, we're taking a chance to look at the way latency interacts with gameplay. Obviously, no one likes playing at high latency, but some champions suffer far more in the past. We're putting in quality life changes to make these champions less punishing. Okay, interesting. Posting with MSI coming up, there's a few strong outliers we'd like to make sure aren't dominating pick bans, so where appropriate changes as necessary. Okay, so it's partially put it toward competitive draft, as well as fixing quality of life buffs for ping related issues. And finally, perfect time to show love to some underpowered champions who need playstyle love. Aatrox is getting extra power in aftermath of his update, and Udyr is getting tiny update. Okay. And then Twisted Tree Line and ARAM, but I don't play either of those. Cool. Zaya and Rakan both coming out sometime soon. I already went over them. Let's get into the nitty gritty. So Aatrox, I'm gonna be completely honest before I go over this champion. The only person on North America I've seen playing Aatrox is Shen. I know there's an Aatrox one trick in Challenger E West, but not many people play this champion. Generally, from what I was told, that this champion isn't very good. His identity essentially is a split push champion that just 1v1s and split pushes the entire game. With his built-in GA, really good, I guess, on-hit damage and really fast attack speed, he's okay at being able to do that. So, still, with all that in mind, he's not good enough to be able to be played into, or he's not better than other split pushers. He doesn't really pressure that hard. Doesn't pressure harder than other top-tier champions like Rumble or Fizz or even Fiora. So that's why he doesn't see much relative play. So what do? Help and attack speed up and refreshes on monsters. W missing health, heal up. So it's still struggling, especially... Oh, they want to make him a jungler? Okay, so... Bloodwell now refreshes when finding monsters. And so they gave him a little bit more attack speed on his Bloodwell, and it made it so that he can hopefully keep it up while he's jungling. Buff to jungle Aatrox. Haven't seen one, so... no comment on that. And his Bloodthirst heals 6.5% of missing Aatrox health. Okay. Just minor buffs to Aatrox. I don't expect him to be godlike, but maybe it will make him semi-viable as a jungler. This won't make him like way more played. I think that he's still relatively... His job is done better by other champions, but this will put him in an okay spot. Maybe for the jungle. Continue on, Amumu. So I actually think this champion's in an okay spot right now. I don't really know if he needs that many changes. If anything at all, this is one of the most frustrating champions to play because he feels very gated by mana. So generally, Ryze has done a good job, or just their idea of playing the game is like you shouldn't be in a position where you can't use your abilities, except for over extended periods of time. Amumu is a champion where it's like I can use all of his mana within 3 camps or 2 camps, unless I have Hunter's Potion or Luden's Echo. And so he's a champion that tends to be one of the most mana reliant junglers of any that I've ever played. And if they're looking to change him, that would be somewhere where I would like to see buffed. Okay, so what are they doing? His passive now does true damage and passive numbers down. So the function of Amumu's passive, post mitigation true damage, didn't match expectations, true damage. So switching to the ladder and adjusting numbers. Okay, so they're just making it so... Okay, actually, it's funny. The earlier passive, I think, could be calculated after Magic Riz was dealt. They just added 15% more damage on top of the ones UR did. So MR targets could still stack MR, and it wouldn't really... Like, it would still accomplish the goal of being able to deal with a movement passive. Now, it's just... It does before MR is calculated, so it's just pure 10% true damage. Should scale better throughout the game, and just overall, I can understand why they nerfed it. I'm really surprised they nerfed Despair by this much. I'm looking at it and it goes 1 to 2% instead of 1 to 3. That's a 50% damage nerf at max level. That's insane. I'm obviously not a big fan of this because this champion I feel like doesn't even see that much play, at least in my elo range. Understand maybe in lower elo ranges he might. And I think if you do want to nerf the damage, and that's okay, I think maybe a good compensating buff would be to buff his mana a little bit so that he can actually just use his abilities. Like even giving him like extra base mana or base mana scaling would help him a lot. Would definitely go a long way. But I guess that's not going to happen. So it just looks like this champion got nerfed. And I don't know if he was like stupidly strong in the first place, but maybe his win rates overall elos say differently. I just thought this champion's still relatively weak, but he was playable after his last buff. Ivern. So this is a champion that is pretty annoying just in general. I think that he has a lot of factors that are really annoying to play with in this kit. He has a really high win rate, but I don't really care about that. I don't look toward that as the primary source of whether or not a champion is good or not. He's just a lot of frustrating factors playing against him. One of the things is what they're directly nerfing, which is the ability to control objectives, because he literally throws W on Baron or Dragon, and you can't see it without a ward being in there. And if you ward it, and they have a sweeper or pink ward in there, then they can just permanently keep the Dragon health at 0 vision. You can't know, and it's really, really difficult to be able to contest Baron or even Dragon if you don't know the health of the objective. It's crazy control for objectives. I think Ivern shouldn't have that level of control, especially when he's already so good. Additionally, on top of this, I'm surprised they didn't touch his buff taking ability. I think that being able to channel for X amount of seconds and then smite a camp immediately is pretty... It's pretty frustrating to play against, honestly, because you could do it almost while they're there. If you like push them off with Daisy, you can literally steal the camp as they're next to you. If they're inside like the knockup duration plus 1 second. And so I thought they might look to extend the passive duration for Ivern, because, or the ability for him to plant his passive onto a camp, maybe extend it by a full second or half a second to be able to help that. I understand what effect is clear, however, I don't think the champion itself clears that poorly. So not sure. I like the Ivern nerf though. I would like to see a little bit more. Maybe a tiny shield nerf. The nerf that I did right there to make counter juggling like a little bit less easy. Just a little bit something. I'm gonna keep moving. Karthus. So this champion didn't see much play. What does it do? Latency makes it Q casting made more fluid. Lay Waste can now be buffered. Cast input as Lay Waste explodes will now input fire once Lay Waste comes off cooldown, unless Karthus cancels the command. Ooh, that's pretty cool. It should technically increase the amount of DPS you can do with Karthus. I think that this is like a nice quality of life buff, obviously for like really high ping players. However, like the only thing that really confuses me is why did Karthus wall get a nerf? Like, just revert the nerf, and I think he'd be okay. I even think he's okay right now. So I guess maybe he doesn't need the buff of reverting one of his old nerfs. But I just remember that being like the most random nerf. It just came out of nowhere, and it was just like, you know what? Karthus wall is going to just decay faster. And it was just really confusing to me. This should make Karthus more playable. He still has problems, but I think he's a pretty strong solo queue champion. You tend to abuse very aggressive players, and Karthus is great at being able to do that, and scales pretty well. Lissandra. So this is a champion that isn't seeing much play right now. Relatively, the thing that keeps her back is that she has high mana costs, or like her wave clear is relatively short range, and her effective range is short range unless you gap close, which means that it's really likely for her to be poked out if she can't all in the champion. Additionally, on top of that, her wave clear is really tied specifically to her mana regen, and she has really, really bad base mana regen, made up for the fact by her passive gives her a free cast every X seconds, which by the way, I think is kind of gimmicky. So I think they're changing that right here. What are they doing? They're making it so that her passive cooldown decreases to 9 seconds at level 16. And That's cool. It's just making it so that she can cast more mana here and there. Lissandra is one of the champions I feel like is relatively gated by mana, and I don't know if she should be as gated as she should be mid lane with everyone else getting essentially free mana all the time, especially with the Forgotten Tome, the 900 gold tome that gives you mana back. You know what I'm talking about. So it's a quite nice buff to her passive, especially mid to late game. Early game doesn't do anything. She also gets 0.05 AP ratio increase on Shard. I think this doesn't do anything. She got Lissandra in general got small buffs. You might notice the passive buff a lot more going to late game, especially because it tends to work on. I think the cooldown decreases when you hit enemy champions with abilities. And so you'll notice yourself getting a lot of passive procs as you go into mid late game with like a bunch of CDR plus you hitting maybe like a ton of people. I think it's good. It's a good change. Lissandra typically feels like a champion that gets crowded out by champions with longer range than her, or any of the new champions, and she's burst champions in general seem to be kind of hard to play, especially with the relative range of the mid lane champions increasing over time. In my opinion, that's kind of been the case, and so a little bit of buffs here, certainly not going to be bad. Malzahar, so what did he get? Base armor down, boiling health down. Oh wow, his boiling health is 2 autos. I don't know if Ryze really has Malzahar as the champion that should be a premier support, and I kind of understand why they reduced the boiling health, because it's like, wait a sec. They made it so he has health just so that he can't lane bot lane, because you're not supposed to be able to beat down a void lane one-on-one. But if you go bot, you have 2 people beating down the void lane. It should be harder for it to happen. However, even at 3 health, what ends up happening is the Malzahar W's and E's you, and if you auto the void lane, he autos you, and his lane mate autos you. So neither of you can auto the void lane, and it's actually really obnoxious. I think that this is just them trying to nerf Malzahar. Unfortunately, it also affects his relative play in mid lane too, which he's seen almost 0 play, because he has typically poor matchups across the table. This is just going to make it so Malzahar doesn't get played. If that's what Riot wants, this is definitely looking like one of those competitive nerfs. Then it's okay. That's what Riot gets. It just, with this nerf though, the relative, like, I'm scared, because if you do nerf out Malzahar, which is one of the top 5 competitive supports in the game, you know, what's remaining? What's left? You got Lulu, you got Karma. The relative strength of the super top tier supports goes up with the nerf to one of the other ones. So I would hope to see, or expect to see, nerfs to those 2, so that like generally the support pool is brought down, so there's more versatility across, rather than every game seeing Karma or Lulu. But let me keep going. Nautilus, this is the best top lane tank in the game. Maokai got nerfed enough to the point where people were just like, you know what, I'm going to pick Nautilus, the other tanky champion that has even better point and click CC. So they made it so that his mana regen growth stat and Riptide got nerfed. This is a good nerf to the champion. I don't. Right now, I think it'll definitely matter, because it means you'll be able to push him out more in lane. This is a champion that currently goes triple Doran's Ring, and I think that's really, I don't know if that should be the case, but he currently does, and so any hit toward his mana regen is good, because it just shouldn't be possible for him to spam that much and wave clear that much, but still keeping relatively high mana. Oh, I should reiterate on this facet, like, I don't know if, I would like to see buffs to worse supports for sure, but I don't know if it's possible to buff champions high enough to match the effectiveness of, let's say, Karma or Lulu. Because if you get to that point, you're literally telling me every champion has to be as good as Karma or Lulu. If you think about that, that's incredibly high relative standard for support strength. I don't necessarily know if it should be that high. I'm okay with just nerfing them and keeping and allowing other champions to prosper, like throwing some buffs there as well, rather than buffing everyone else up to their level, which I think is really, really dangerous. Ryze, so Q resets on W cast, not hit. Oh, so you can just string the combo a lot easier. It's actually really nice. It affects people even without ping. I don't necessarily know. Right now, Ryze is seeing play into LeBlanc at the moment, maybe a little bit into Talon. He's still like an okay champ. I don't think he's that bad. And this will just help a decent amount. It makes it so that you'll definitely notice this, regardless of your ping. Like when you throw it, if something goes on cooldown when you throw it, it's way different than leaving than when it hits. Because when it hits could be almost the timing of like 0.5 seconds. That's a long time during the middle of the game. Shen. This is a champion that's seen a lot of play at the moment, especially with Nautilus. He's one of the top 2 or 3 tank champions. Q does less damage to minions but more to champions. Okay. Shen's one of those champions who performs considerably better in organized play thanks to top tier roaming power Stand United affords him. Agreed. At the moment, his built-in wave clear gives him consistent map pressure. Built-in wave clear? What? He wave clears through Tiamat. Oh, I mean, I guess they mean that his relative damage to creeps. Sure. We're trimming both of his damage to creeps and his roaming pressure. So his empowered auto attack does less damage against non-champion threats. Oh wow, that's a considerable amount less damage, especially going later into levels. 70 less damage against champions, and deals double damage to monsters, and still has a cap. They're making it so he can still somewhat jungle. Alright, I mean, this doesn't really change anything because this just flattens out the nerf that happens up here. They're making it so his jungle speed is really slow for the most part, so he can't really jungle. What else did they do? They made it so his energy dash costs less energy, increases the width. Okay, that's a little cool, tiny little buff. And Stand United now cooldown goes from 180, it starts at 180 to 20 to 200 to 160. And the shield starts down and scales up based on allies' current health. Oh, it punishes proactive play? I don't know if I like the sound of that. It's a straight nerf, just across the board. It's an absolute straight nerf. It's a buff maybe at the very beginning. By like 30 health, but it's like a straight nerf across the board. 40-second nerf at rank 6, 20-second nerf at rank 1. It makes the champion, and it makes it really hard to do proactive plays. The width buff is technically a 20% buff. That's pretty nice. But they're making it so that essentially if you're looking to make a dive play with Stand United, you will not be getting as much of a shield as you could before. I don't know if I necessarily like that, but I can understand why they nerfed the champion, especially for competitive play. It is relatively good. I think they could have just settled with this nerf rather than nerfing this as well as his wave clear or his damage to minions, but I don't necessarily think this is going to matter that much because Shen right now already rushes Sunfire or they either go Sunfire or Tiamat, and so I don't think anything relative difference changes here. He's probably still going to see a lot of play. It's just, you'll definitely feel the cooldown nerfs for sure. Moving down. Udyr, I don't see much of this champion in the first place. There's maybe one player in high elo that plays a decent amount of Udyr, so I'm not especially good at understanding the champion or what he does or how it feels like to play against him. So what is going to happen? Q and W now have an effect every 3 hits, mana cost adjusted. Udyr players currently feel pretty pinned to playing Phoenix or Tiger while skipping out entirely on one of the others until the end of the game. But I have to ensure that using all of Udyr's abilities is at least an option, which means making Tiger and Turtle more compelling stances to remain in, while also making low-level abilities less of a drain to his mana pool. Okay, so they made his... The mana cost decrease doesn't even matter. It decreased by 2. Or maybe... It got increased early game. Okay, whatever. Let's read the stances. So they removed his basic attack no longer deal an additional total AD as bonus damage. Instead, his first and third strikes after deal Tiger Strikes, applying the stance over. Oh, so the third strike will also apply the Tiger Strike damage. Successive Tiger Strike against the same target will instantly deal all remaining damage. Oh, that's cool. So if you stick on them, your Tiger Stance is going to beat them up. Alright, I like it. What's the Turtle Stance one? Udyr no longer gains lifesteal while in Turtle Stance. Okay. Udyr's first and third basic auto while in Turtle Stance will heal him for 2.5% of his maximum health, increasing up to 5% of Udyr's missing health. I think that's probably better for him and better for the champion, because I do kind of agree that Udyr should be using his stances like a lot, like in certain situations. So if, let's say, you stance to turtle W, hit someone once, and then dance to Q or whatchamacallit, Phoenix Dance, to be able to go back into your damage source while still healing 2% of your maximum health, kind of go rotating through your stances. I think it's okay. It's cool. I like the idea. I think 2.5% of his maximum health is relatively a low amount, though, and most Udyr players like to have more. But I can understand that it could be difficult to balance this kind of amount of health. Especially because he can do it so consistently. This definitely also rewards, I think it should reward health stacking Udyr. So any Udyrs right now who rush like Trinity Force, I think most Udyrs rush Trinity Force in the tank items, so shouldn't be that much of an issue. Just going back over the champions real quick, I like what they did. With almost everything here, essentially buffs to the champions who weren't seeing much play, nerfs across the board to champions that were too good, especially for competitive. You see Malzahar, you see Nautilus, you see Shen. Overall, and they changed Udyr. I just hope that this champion doesn't become too good for MSI. Like, whenever you change stuff like this, I think of things like this and I'm just like, is this going to become a top laner or a top tier jungler? And I guess for the most part, they have some time to be able to experiment, but it'd be really interesting if we got in this situation where this Udyr makes the champion actually pretty good and he becomes playable in a competitive sense, and which kind of completely negates like their initial idea of we want to make sure strong outliers aren't there. But I very much doubt this will make him a top tier champion. Okay, moving on. I don't really want to cover Howling Abyss or ARAM or Twisted Treeline. Sorry, I don't play either game mode, and I don't think I'm the person who should talk about it because my specialty isn't on either of these game modes. So unfortunately, nothing to say here. Moving on, Mastery. Storm Raider Surge now has a louder visual effect with it updates. Great. I actually think that that's really nice because sometimes I can only tell I'm moving faster because I see the little beep debuff on it. Jungle. So mini Krugs go. Oh, thank God. Mini Krugs leashed back to their place, not where they died. Sometimes mini Krugs literally leashed out of the pit and like they blew up over the wall, and then to hit them you have to like go around the wall to hit them and they'll just leash out if you try to drag them over. It's super frustrating. Rift Sculler, clearly around who kills the Rift Sculler, now submerges a bit more slowly, allowing hit FFX for things like that killed her to play. Okay, so that's no one takes Rift Sculler right now. Oh no, that's the sorry, that's the crab. I thought for a second this was Herald. Okay, that's cool. So it just shows who killed her easier. It's nice. This is really nice. This is kind of nice. Both good stuff. Ward Gold Death Audio. Wards now play a sound when gold is gained. Oh, it's there to like kind of reward you for killing wards as a reminder. It's smart by Riot because it encourages people to do it. I like the idea. Loot. The description for Hextech chest and loot menu now always displays what the possible contents inside. Okay. Rotating game modes. I don't play rotating game modes. League client update. We're tuning performance, replacing legacy client, a bunch of rare stuff. And I don't typically cover bug fixes because they're relatively unimportant except for one or two. New patches, new skins. You guys are right. It's relatively short and sweet and simple. Nothing that I can say too much about this. This is the kind of setup for MSI and minor patch before the mid-season patch. So not too much to cover. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and play some ads and get back into queue. Wait, there's a mid-season. Oh, there's a mid-season page. Well, I guess I'm just gonna go to that then. I guess I'm not going back to Q yet. Where's the mid-season page? Is this it? It's on the client? Wait, you guys are messing with me. Alright, mid-season update. Alright, never mind. I guess I'm extending this patch rundown to also talk about the mid-season. So if you want to know my first impressions about the mid-season, I already talked a little bit about it before. I understand there's a lot of critiques on that Riot was changing certain champions to different kind of titles, and I didn't really cover that. I tend to cover what's exactly in the patch notes, and I tend to not follow Surrender at 20, so if there is any kind of confusion to that, I will try to keep up with it, but that's the best promise I can make. We've reached the midpoint waypoint. Okay, pave what's next. So this is a retrospective, so what worked and what didn't. So for me, what worked, I think jungle is in an okay position. Before I thought jungle was super OP, nerfed it down. Champion support bot lane role used to be terrible in terms of champion diversity. Jhin Varus every game. They've gotten a lot better, but crit ADs kind of suck. Mid lane, randomly buffed Vlad Kassadin, so they've made the meta kind of weird with Vlad Kassadin, Ahri, Ori, Cassio. But it's okay. Like, it's fairly open-ended, but and kind of unique. I don't think that we've had a similar mid lane meta in a long time in terms of being both open-ended as well as just kind of strange with a bunch of pocket OP picks and general strong picks as well. Top lane's pretty bad. I think Fizz, Rumble, Kled being top tier picks is not optimal. Usually there's a combination of tanks as well as carries. The carries that are strong seem very not the ideal carries I'd like to see, I guess, because they're oppressive or they have mini games attached to them and they're just really weird in general. Okay, anyways, I'm just gonna keep going on. Rengar and the block portfolio special challenges working on. Itemized into the jungle, we updated Smite beyond preseason. Jungle camps clearing that matches their play style. This gave the jungle route too much early game influence. We've dialed back these adjustments and happy with how things settled. I mean, really, are you happy? Everyone still starts Raptor camp once you're leased in a lot of times. Or if you get a leash on blue side, you start blue. I guess it's not that's not true, but most people still I think Raptor camp still should be a thing. Beyond preseason, have to gain a lot of new faces. Okay, last topic, marksman. Marksman struggled through the roughest meta we faced in ages. We tackled these factors individually by reducing early game pressure, bringing Assassin's lethality, narrowing Colossus focus. Okay, what's in store? We're giving Sejuani exact new powers. Oh, okay, cool. I can see them. Oh god, that's loud. Well, this is the thing. After taking damage, because immune to slows against bonus resist. It lingers briefly after taking damage. Refreshes faster with Sejuani's movement. I certainly like this passive better than her old one. Charges forward, knocking damage in any abilities. As a heads up, I kind of went over talking about the abilities before. But this is definitely more in depth in terms of like how it looks, the range of the relative abilities, and I'll be focusing more towards that when I'm looking at these. No change to the. Oh god, it's so loud. Swedes or Mace slams it down the line, deals both damage and applies frost. Okay. Permafrost. Basic autos apply frost on champions and large stock. Nearby allied minions also gain this effect. Frost stacks up to 4 times. Remember, your W can give you up to 2 because you get the loop or the wide AoE into the linear AoE. So you can, if you are doing the 1v1, you can proc auto into like the W into like another auto, and it would be able to proc the Permafrost passive. Once you get up to 4, you can activate a point and click CC, and their first attack deals maximum bonus damage. Okay, as health. Ooh. Okay. Kind of exactly what you expect. The biggest thing with this ability, like I said before, is that your nearby allies can start this effect for you. So unlike Braum, Braum has a Q or auto to start it off first. The most important thing with this ability is the fact that if you're near allies, they can start it off. So if you walk into a lane with Lucian, he E's up, double taps him with passive Q, double hits him with passive again, he can solo proc Permafrost into your Sejuani ulti. Or Sejuani E. So something that's a really big difference, looks similar, is really different, especially in team fights, is very, very different. Oh, it's melee only, so apologies. So it would have to be like a Warwick or something that resets it for you. Apologize. I forgot about that. Wait, the initial thing still CCs? I thought it just was a slow range. There was a true ice bullet which damages, stuns, and freezes the first champion hit based on distance traveled. Long range bullets leave behind an ice storm that slows enemies, erupting after a brief delay to massively slow enemies except for the original target. Jeez, that's actually a huge CC. But rather than being, it seems, I didn't realize it also give her single target CC as well. Yeah, it's Nunu plus Lissandra. That's a good way to describe this. It's definitely pretty interesting. I didn't realize how much additional slow gets put out. It definitely, even though they said they wanted to take away from her ult, her being an ult bot essentially in mid and late game. This is still a situation where it's like in team fights, if you hit their backline with this is gonna be so annoying to play against, especially with how much it slows. If you ever try walking through a Nunu ulti, you should understand. It's literally, that's what it looks like. Alright, let's keep going. We'll move on to Zac, the secret weapon. So, wait. Oh, I already read this. So Zac, they wanted to make it so that his other abilities are cool, like his E. That's essentially what the direction is supposed to be. So, what is it? His cell division doesn't change, right? Nah, it's exactly the same. Which I think it's a cool passive. I don't think it needs to be changed. So they decided to change his Q because they thought it was relatively boring. It stretches, it hits the first enemy, and then it slows them, and then the next attack gains bonus range and attacks a different enemy. You throw both of them together. It just looks funny. I don't know. I'm wondering what the length of the leash range is for his Q, because I don't think it shows that. It just it looks humorous. It's a lot of extra CC to give a champion though, for sure. I am really curious to see if they think that they gave too much to this champion. Oh god, why do they always reset the volume? Oh, it's the same exact thing. So they didn't change his E, which is, again, really strange to me that they said they wanted to make the rest of his kit very interactive, but they left his least interactive ability in the kit. I understand it's necessary for jungle clear and all that stuff, consistent damage, but it seems like that's more of like an excuse rather than an actual good reason. So last slingshot. exactly what it is on live. This is the real difference. So he can squish himself in a puddle, and charges becoming immune to crowd control and slowing the effect enemies that stand on him. Reactivating Let's Bounce without fully charging causes Zac to reform and knocking back nearby enemies. Zac charges for at least a second. He sucks up enemies above him and carries them toward the target location, damaging enemies and nearby landing. Okay, what's it look like? Wait, that looks... Wait, that actually looks... Oh, I understand now. You're supposed to... The idea is you queue them together, right? You make them like stand next to each other on top of you, and hopefully you like find a way to keep them CC'd. Then you just throw them somewhere, like into your tower. This is definitely a really interesting situation because before it used to be used to E in with Zac and be relatively disruptive with your ulti and then Q, like really piss them off, right? From really long range. Now you can initiate really long range as well as pump people back if they get CC'd on top. So it gives him a lot more CC and tools than he had before. Very dangerous. But it looks cool, I guess. I like it. Maokai. Oh, and this is... Okay. It's similar to... There's like a graphical difference, but... His Q doesn't change either, right? It's still the smashes the fist, knocking back... allies. What is his W? Does W change? That's slower, right? I think that's a little bit slower than before, but still, it's about the same. Flings to sapling. Sapling placing buses now deal more damage over time. Okay. I'm surprised they lower the the speed of the W. The E is there to be more of a scouting tool plus threat. I don't really think the damage will matter that much unless you're maxing it. Maybe it's like to help jungle Maokai. Not sure. This is Nature's Grasp, which I like to call... Oh god, the volume's so loud. Nami Wave. Slow Nami Wave. It summons 5 roots, literally covers the entire lane, and each root can only be applied to one person. If you see the CC duration, it looks to be about 1 second to maybe 1.5 to 2 seconds. It increases based on how much farther away it is. Again, this is going to make him less of a tank and more of a follow-up flanker / initiating champion. It's really slow to initiate, so it's supposed to be like a flanking / follow-up ability. I like that he's not the super OP tank anymore. I don't know how much I like the ulti. I have to wait and see. It is very slow though, slower than I expected. Okay, so new options: Gargoyle Plate, Chain Vest Negatron. If 3 champions nearby gain bonus resist, temporarily activate to gain health but do more damage. Use if you team fight a lot and you're a tank but you don't need to do damage. Okay, it's a niche that hasn't been explored yet in the game. I'm a little bit afraid that it gives too much health for to reduce damage, but we'll see. Adaptive Helm. It's for taking magic damage like Cassio E consistently. This is a helm that tends to work well into it. So again, if you're against something like Cassio, this is the helm for you, the defensive itemization for you. And it gives you CDR, which is pretty interesting. GA, so same passive, but it has attack damage and armor rather than any MR. It's being a very niche item, and less tanks should buy this item. So it shouldn't be the 3rd item for every tank in the game. But still probably will be a 3rd item for bruisers here and there. Tank team contributions, support quests. Oh yeah, we're talking about these quests. Borrow a skill point from your future self, which you get an extra skill point. Relic shield, get another shield from your shield. Gain a shield that regenerates while combat punching people makes the shield regenerate faster. A little bit of extra move and moving faster when you poke people. Which is typically actually exactly what the spell thief kind of people want. The extra mobility will help a lot. Being able to trade and get in and out. Support quests in general, I'm not sold on them. I don't know how good they'll be. I don't really understand. I understand the idea of why you want them in the game. I just don't know how effective they'll be. And so, I guess the best thing I can say about these, I want to just wait and see. Contribution clarity. End of the game stats screen will now show damage mitigated, damage to towers, vision score, crowd control score. I'm really curious what they're doing for these two. Because, especially the vision score, like, it's literally just going to be like a thing for supports. But I'm really interested, actually, to see how it works out. I don't really look at the in-game stats at all, but maybe if it becomes vision score or crowd control score becomes something people actually look at and be like, wow, look how much more I CC'd you than the other guy. Gameplay clarity, health bars and kill callouts make it easy to track the impact of your damage in real time. We're expanding similar clarity to champions spells. So addition, crowd control spells are written above their health bar. New attribution visuals draw a connection from wielders of the various summer spells. That visual is now team colored. Okay, I like the team color stuff. That's cool. And any more clarity is always a great thing. I think clarity does nothing but help the game. Item impact tracking. Number of items already track how well you've been using the item. We're expanding the functionality. Oh yes, I actually think this is funny because you can look at Locket and see your biggest shield. You know, honestly, that means nothing. I'll be completely honest. It doesn't matter. But it's cool because it makes you feel good about yourself. I don't mind that in the game. I think it's okay. Rift Herald's their other big one. Now drop Herald to the eye when defeated. Use the eye before it expires to bring the Rift Herald back as a structure smashing machine. Again, this is a very dangerous thing to put in the game. And a lot of other MOBAs do this right now. I think Heroes of the Storm, Master X Master are two that come out the top of my head. It's a very hard thing to balance because sometimes it feels like it's too tanky and you just have to PvE the entire game to be able to reward it. But there is only just one available in the game before it respawns, and I guess it's possible to have this in the game. I'm just not sure what it's going to be like. I have to see. You know, I really have to see. Looking forward, there's an honor update. Great, because honor sucks. Like, I've honored my teammates maybe like a couple times here and there, but honestly, like, I don't get any feeling about honor. Like, when I honor someone, I'm just like, okay. When I get honor, it doesn't even faze me. You know, I'd rather get like 10 more IP than honor every game. And I'm someone who cares very little about IP. So I'm hoping they can finally make this something that's actually good. 10 bans. Whew! I can't wait. And regular play will give everyone equal agency, so everyone gets a ban. Really good. And keeping champions like fair. It doesn't matter where you end up in the pick order. If possible, we'll also be cutting down champs like overall length. Expect to see them shortly after midseason. Once 10 bans launches, you'll need to own 20 or more champions, up from 16. We'll be running an IP boost weekend very soon to give you a chance to make up the difference. Ooh, okay, at least there's an IP boost weekend. That's cool. Don't need that, but that's cool. Playing League with friends in normals or flex is one thing, but there's an opportunity to add new competitive experience in League, one different from the now retired ranked teams queue. We want organized teams to compete for rewards, but include and appeal to players of all skill levels. Think something along the lines of forming a team with your friends and entering an amateur tournament together where the stakes, intensity, and rewards are ramped up. We're still working on how exactly this works, so stay tuned. You know what this reminds me of? Did anyone ever play Warcraft 3 tournaments? Like the 1v1, 2v2 tournaments? I think that was like really cool because every week inside the client when you played Warcraft 3, you'd have like these tournaments that appear and you'd be like, oh, I guess if I'm around, I'll try hit those up. You know, I think that it'd be cool if Riot did that. And maybe this is kind of similar to that happening. But there's not much detail, so all I can do is like theorize what could happen. We have more to share to you as we move in the second half. Meanwhile, get ready for midseason, whatever, and the midseason invitational. Here we go. Cool. All right, cool. I am done. Let's get into game. I'm gonna play some video games.